Welcome to today's episode of Quest Talk. Did you know that Tesafilm, which is now an indispensable item in every household or office, was originally intended as a wound plaster? We've invited an expert to show how companies can discover new uses for their tech and enter new markets. Hi Niklas, it's great to have you here today. You're an expert in the field of community innovation and crowdsourcing, but please feel free to introduce yourself.
My name is Niklas, and I've been working in the field of innovation and specifically crowdsourcing for the past 12 years. Like a lot of experience in how we can involve different kind of communities into the innovation process, be it external communities like our crowdsourcing community, also internal communities of employees. I have a background in innovation management, and I'm currently doing my PhD also looking into how technology is changing how we innovate.
Then let's dive right deep into the insights. I'd like to start with one practical example. Imagine a medium-sized company that has developed a groundbreaking technology. What steps and approaches would you recommend to discover innovative applications for this technology and also to open up new markets?
Yeah, so that's something that we actually see quite often. So we have a lot of clients who are hidden champions. They are very good in the technology that they develop, but oftentimes they lack the right applications. So when they develop a technology, they often have one application in mind, usually in an industry where they are already well connected and where they've developed products and services in the past. But what that is difficult is to actually broaden up the scope and think about different industries where maybe also they lack the network, they lack the expertise. So what we usually do is first, we open up. We try to go as broad as possible, generate as many ideas as possible. And for that, we often use the crowd. So we've developed our own crowdsourcing platform with our own community of 10,000 innovators from all around the world, different backgrounds. So there may be engineers, there may be architects, there may be designers, but then there's maybe a neuroscientist, there's a quality assurance manager, you name it. So lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, also from different industries. And that really allows us to generate a lot of ideas in different areas. So we get ideas from different industries and from people who have totally different perspectives on a specific technology. So that is the first step, basically. So we really open up. Then we, as a second step, try to narrow it down again and try to find the most promising use cases. So first, we try to cluster the ideas, find different areas where ideas have been submitted. So maybe one area is retail, one area is automotive, and we kind of see what kind of industries could maybe be interesting for this technology. And then we narrow it down and actually look into the single ideas and see whether there are ideas or combinations of ideas where we can actually see if there's a market for that. So in second step, basically narrow it down, find the most promising ideas, and then it's all about validation. So initially we may think that an idea is promising and has a lot of potential in a certain market, but then it's really about understanding whether it's really a need also from the market. So does this technology actually solve a problem, a real problem of the market? And that's where we then often have to work with experts from these markets, where we do interviews, where we have a lot of discussions to really figure out the technology that we have. Does it solve a certain problem? What do we need to actually make that work?
Yeah, that sounds like the perfect example, the perfect use case. But we all know that things are not always that easy. And maybe sometimes the envisioned use case turns out to be not the right one. Are there typical reasons for that? And if so, could you explain them?
Yeah, so certainly it doesn't always work out like that. And that's oftentimes what we figure out either already in the selection process, but then also in talking to experts. We sometimes see that the technology maybe is more expensive, so it's not as cost efficient as another solution. That may be a reason. Maybe it even has some specific properties that are better, but it's just too expensive. The technology maybe doesn't offer the right solution. So maybe it's not good enough to provide a service. So sometimes we see that it just doesn't fit in that way. And then we need to consider whether there's any change that can be made to the technology or whether it's just not the right use case and we have to find a new one.
And what can companies do if they find themselves at this point?
Usually it's, again, going back a step, thinking about different applications, opening up, finding the right experts in their network, beyond their network, to talk to figure out where can my technology actually solve a real pain. Where do we have a problem that our technology can solve in an ideally unique way? So where do we have benefits compared to other technologies? What are really the strength of our technology, and where can it then either replace another technology in an existing market, or where can we create an entirely new market where maybe a solution isn't even available yet.
You already mentioned crowdsourcing in the beginning and the importance of a network. Do we have some examples of how ideas from crowdsourcing have led to the development of successful products?
Yes, so one example is a case where we have brought together two players from completely different industries, a telecommunication company and a railway company. In this case, it was Vodafone and Deutsche Bahn. And it all started with Vodafone, who had developed a technology called narrowband IoT. So you probably know broadband. You can send large data packages. But then narrowband is the opposite. You can send very small data packages, but you can do it very energy efficiently. So you can put a battery into a sensor and it can send data for many years, just very small data packages. So you will not be able to stream a video, but you will be able to send sensor data. And they developed that for a use case in the automotive industry. So for when a car crashes, it basically can send an SOS signal, even without any power supply. So that is the initial use case. But then they were wondering, okay, what other use cases can we actually find? And for that, we ran a crowdsourcing campaign, collected between 400 and 500 ideas, really a lot of ideas, opened up, clustered them, understood the kind of areas where ideas were submitted, and then down selected. So we selected 10 ideas that we liked a lot. And the winning idea was one idea that was called graffiti detector. So here the user had the idea to use narrowband IoT to equip a sensor that can detect where graffiti is sprayed. So you know that graffiti is a huge problem. Having stated data from the US, about $25 billion of damage each year. So a huge problem. And this idea was then to connect a sensor to the narrowband IoT technology to detect when graffiti is being sprayed, so that you can then actually detect it early to clean a wall or clean a train in our use case, and to send a security service to interrupt the spray. So that was the initial idea. And with that idea, and Vodafone, we looked for partners. And I already mentioned that we found a very maybe not typical partner for them, Deutsche Bahn, so a big German railway company. And they work together because graffiti is a huge problem for Deutsche Bahn, and they really like to find a solution for that. So that basically brought the two together. We as Hive basically facilitated this process, but also helped them then develop the solution. So we helped them actually turn this initial idea into a prototype. And for that, it's really important to understand what the technology can do. So send data packages, but also what it can't do. Narrowband IoT on its own cannot detect graffiti spraying. So we had to find another technology to go with that. And after a lot of also user testing, so we actually talked to the sprayers, how they spray to understand what they actually do, and how we could then best support the detection. So for example, we initially thought we could detect it via audio and detect the clicking of the can, the small metal ball in the can. But we noted, we learned basically that the sprayers use a magnet in the can, so it doesn't click. So we had to find another solution and ended up with detecting aerosols, so particles in the air where graffiti was sprayed. So that then allowed us to develop a solution that leverages narrowband IoT. So you could just without any power supply, you could attach it to, for example, a train, but also a wall, to detect when graffiti is being sprayed in order to, for an example of trains, for example, also clean it earlier. Not have the paint dry, have an easier process of actually cleaning the train, and provide a benefit to that. So that basically is something that then turned into a prototype and that is still in development, but where we can really see that we came up with an idea that Vodafone on its own would never have had. They just had technology, but they didn't really know what to do with it. And this really opened up a completely new field of business for them.
I've got one more question regarding the process. What challenges did arise, maybe in this specific example, but also in general in such processes? And what can the companies or what can you do to overcome them?
Initially, I think the first challenge is to really open up and broaden up. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of companies have that have expertise in one area and know a certain field of business, to really open up and be open-minded about that. So the crowd definitely helps to open up this process. And then you have to figure out whether there's a market. In this case, it's somehow a B2B problem, or the way it's framed with Deutsche Bahn. You have to find the right partner. So really having this network and having the right people, companies in this network is very important. And then, of course, also the technical feasibility. So there were still some unanswered questions. So one technology was the narrowband IoT sensor chip, but the other one is then the sensor that can actually detect the spraying. So here you have to also validate the feasibility and understand whether it's technically possible to build something like that. So here you have to have the right expertise, but then also understand the entire system around it. So understand how the sprayers actually work to really solve the right problem and solve it in the right way.
I think it's a really impressive and also understandable use case. For the last question, I'd like to shift our perspective to the future. Do you, with all your expertise, have some examples or outlooks on the exciting developments and trends that will help us discover new applications for our technologies in the next years or further?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, really important is still the humans. So who's involved? What kind of stakeholders do we need in order to actually make an idea come to life? It's always easy to have an idea, but what is more important than afterwards is to actually get the right people together, to develop the right solution, get the right buy-in from the right stakeholders. So I think this kind of network and the humans involved in that are very crucial to make innovations happen. But then we, of course, also see technical advancements, and artificial intelligence, for example, could help generate more ideas. Still, I think the crowd is very important to get this broad perspective, which is very hard to get with an artificial intelligence. So I think in that regard, it can also support in clustering ideas, maybe finding new ideas in a certain cluster. But after all, I think the human intelligence that is needed and the collaboration, especially within networks and within innovation ecosystems, is very important to also make such innovations, also other innovations come to life also in the future.
That's good to hear. I think exciting times are ahead of us, but for now, thank you so much, Niklas.
Thank you for having us.
We are eager to hear from you. Have you experienced similar challenges or found innovative solutions through crowdsourcing? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to our channel to not miss any episodes. Click the bell icon to stay updated. Until next time.